Okay, so I'm almost at the end of my shift. Hey, yeah, it's me again. So we have some geese over here, so I'm gonna make this quick because I seem to be in their territory and they're staring at me in a very antsy and aggressive manner. Um, I've once again been assured by an evangelical fundamentalist who understands nothing about reality that yes, Charles Darwin is a Jesus analog for atheists, and that we as atheists worship him, pray to him, ask him to cure our cancer and to heal us, and that we somehow believe that he's going to come back and take us all away to some place where we will magically live forever. Yeah. No, none of this is true. We don't pray to Charles Darwin. He is a mortal man, and we know this, and we fully understand that he is a mortal man who lived his life and died. We don't think he's coming back. He's dead. He's going to stay dead. He's going to stay dead. Okay, come on. He's not coming back. Okay? Come on. Please, try to understand this. He's going to stay dead. And those geese are looking a little territorial, so yeah, I'm going to wrap this up. Charles Darwin is not a Jesus analog for atheists. We do not pray to him. We do not believe that he's coming back. We do not believe that he has magical powers. We do not consider his every word to be sacred writ. We do not learn about him as stories told about the miracles of Charles Darwin by third parties who never met him. Instead, we learn about him as a historical figure to whom no miracles have ever been attributed, who has no magical powers, who lived and who died, and whose greatest contribution to humanity was figuring out sexual selection. And he didn't even do that alone. He had other people working on it with him. Huxley and Wallace, two names that evangelicals tend to forget. We're also working on the question of how does evolution work? At the same time that Darwin was working on the question of how does evolution work. And they all arrived at sexual selection. Sexual selection. Yeah. Those who are born with traits that are most conducive of a better life are more likely to reproduce than those who have traits that are less conducive of a better life. Simple sexual selection. That's what Darwin figured out, along with Wallace and Huxley, two other people who were working on the exact same question. And they wrote letters back and forth talking about the question of sexual selection. How does it work? The reason that Darwin is the most famous of the group is very simply this: capitalism. Charles Darwin was the richest one in the group. He was the rich guy. He was the son of Dr. Robert Darwin and the grandson of Dr. Erasmus Darwin, both of whom were very wealthy men. Rich men who, yes, they made their money as doctors, but also as very clever investors. And they invested in the tea trade, they invested in the spice trade, they invested in the cotton trade and in the silk trade. And by doing so, they amassed vast fortunes. And so Charles Darwin was born into wealth, power, and privilege. And so, yes, in the 1840s, 1850s, 1860s, 1870s, 1880s, and right even to this day, the rich person gets priority because capitalism. Wallace was a struggling botanist. Huxley was a struggling public speaker and botanist, and what is that term for somebody who specializes in plant botany rather than animal botany? Wallace was all about animals, specifically primates, and he studied them extensively. Huxley was all about plants, especially flowering plants, but also non-flowering plants. He worked on both. Darwin worked in both fields, animals and plants, flora and fauna. And he was able to do more work, and he was able to do a better job because he had the resources to do it. And you can visit Darwin's laboratory in Darwin's house. Yes, you can visit that site. Anybody can go visit there. And you'll see that it's a very ordinary house. A very painfully ordinary house. There are no shrines. It's just an ordinary house. And they give tours once a day. Tourists are allowed to walk through and look at Darwin's laboratory and Darwin's library and look at Darwin's garden. Walk through his garden, which has been meticulously preserved by his descendants. And yes, there is a trust to maintain the house because it's part of the British heritage, along with Hever Castle, which was the home of the Boleyn family. Yes. And numerous other places. Oh, incidentally, Blenheim Palace is also on the list. Not because it was where Winston Churchill was born, but because it was where John Churchill lived his entire adult life after he won the Battle of Blenheim and was made the Duke of Marlborough. Yes. Yeah. So it's on the list of famous houses of famous Englishmen because Darwin is a famous Englishman. Hever Castle and Blenheim Palace are also on the list. Yeah. Yeah. Anywho, so I'm glad we could establish this, that Darwin was not a Jesus analog. He's not a god. He has no magical powers. He's not a divine being. He's just an ordinary guy who happened to do some research into sexual selection. That's it. Anywho, ta-ta. So as I was saying, Charles Darwin is not a Jesus analog for atheists. He's dead. He has been dead for more than 140 years. He's going to stay dead forever. He's never coming back. No atheist believes that he is coming back. The thing that makes him significant is not any wild stories about him performing miracles or working magic, but rather the fact that he was one of 3 men who helped discover sexual selection. And he didn't even discover genetics. No, that was Gregor Mendel, another biologist who figured out genetics. And Mendel, who solved the last problem of evolution, was a Christian monk. Yes, a Christian monk from Austria. And yeah, he wrote to Darwin. Toward the end of Darwin's life, he wrote a series of letters explaining genetics, and Darwin did reply once, saying thank you. But Huxley wrote many times, and of course Wallace was quite irate that somebody else figured out what he couldn't figure out. Yeah. Of the 4 men involved in figuring out evolution, Wallace, Huxley, Darwin, and Mendel, only one, Huxley, was an atheist. Darwin was a Christian who became an agnostic. Wallace was a Christian who was also a spiritualist. And Mendel was a devout Christian monk. He was a clergyman. So only Huxley was an atheist. Yeah. So no, evolution isn't even atheism. It does not require atheism. It does not demand atheism. It is a biological process that stands on its own. And the most important thing about Darwin isn't any stories about him, but rather his research notes. Because he left copious research notes, which anybody can use to replicate any of his experiments and verify his discoveries. And that is why we know he was on the right track with everything he was doing, because we can replicate his experiments. We can replicate them step by step and verify them. Because yes, he was a scientist. He was a gentleman scientist. He was not a mystic or a spiritual figure. Anywho, I think that's about it. Ta-ta. Good morning, everybody. It is a beautiful, beautiful day. Love yous all.